It's Rachel. I want to talk about the parable of the fig tree because understanding that parable as well as seeing it come forth is a time for us to know that the end is upon us, that when it happens in that generation, that generation is in which all these things of the end are going to be occurring and fulfilled. So in Mark 13, it said in verse 28, it says, "Now learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see these things happening, know that it or he is near at the doors. Surely I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place." So earlier, that was in Mark 11, you'll read starting in verse 13. It says, "And seeing from afar a fig tree having leaves, he, Jesus, went to see if perhaps he could find something on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. In response, Jesus said to it, 'Let no one eat fruit from you ever again.' And his disciples heard it." And then later, in verse 20, it says, "Now in the morning, as they passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots. And Peter, remembering, said to him, 'Rabbi, look, the fig tree which you cursed has withered away.'" Verse 22, "So Jesus answered and said to him, 'Have faith in God.'" There is, in the beginning, when Adam and Eve, they took of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And that is likened to a fig tree, because when they covered themselves with fig leaves, because that was the knowledge, the understanding, the doctrine that they had gotten from the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. So they covered themselves with those fig leaves, because remember, that's what you do when you feel shame. You want to cover, you want to hide yourself. And the only thing that you can hide yourself with are the idols, the things that comfort your spirit other than the comforts of God. Okay? And the only thing that can truly comfort your spirit is being in a right union with God. But that's what we all do when we have that sin, because that sin causes that shame before God. And that's what we do to hide ourselves. We hide ourselves behind all kinds of things. So those are those fig leaves. So the fig tree is the one that was cursed. That's representing trees are men, right? So that's representing us. And it's like you're taking part of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. You're being a vine of that tree, instead of being a vine attached to the branch of the tree of life. But this is what God does in the end, is that he brings healing to the fig tree. So what was dead from its roots, and this is also what Christ did. He put an utter end to our afflictions by destroying death. He made it wither. That was what he did. He brought an utter end to the roots of the iniquity that was in us. That's what it is to die to self. That's the understanding that Christ the Word gives you, is you are this tree and you're putting out these leaves, but it's all of corruption. So you have to die at your very root. And remember us talking about how your very personality, your mind, your heart, everything is born out of corruption. And all of those elements, you have to come to a point where you die to each of those elements. So you completely desire a new mind. You completely desire a new heart. And that exterior that it expresses, you completely desire a new personality, a new garment. You want to be literally a new creation, remade completely by the Creator. And this is exactly what he came to do. So while he's also the one to totally dry up and destroy all those parts, because in that death, he actually brings them alive. It is you're dead yet alive because of the process that he takes you through, because you actually go through a death in parts. It's just like that caterpillar, right? That is an entity that truly dies in its form, yet it's alive. So you see where there's death yet alive, okay? And that's because there's a transformation of these different parts of us, of our heart, of our mind, of our spirit, of our personality. Okay, so each of those parts goes through this transformation of dying and renewing, and as they transform, that's what keeps us alive, because it doesn't all happen at once, but it's in parts, and that we go through that renewal. So this is all what Christ has done by giving us his Spirit, is coming inside as that eternal teacher, is he's reteaching and reshaping all of these different elements. So in the end, once his work is done, we are a completely new creation, just like a butterfly, a completely different expression. And this is what happens with the firstborn, the sons of God. Okay, those are the first resurrection. They are the ones that will first, it says this fig tree, those are the first to be healed, to be recreated, to go through that entire process. And they are the firstborn. And the firstborn, they receive a double portion. They receive an abundance of God's inheritance. Now, what is the beautiful inheritance of God? It is his very Spirit. Because when you have him, you have everything. But what's beautiful about this is that the firstborn receive a double portion. They receive overflowing abundance of the Spirit of God. God has taught us that it is more blessed to give than receive. And you certainly, and this dynamic is a spiritual law, and you see it throughout everything that you do. And one very powerful way to understand this principle and to learn it in your life is with money, because money is a power in this world, okay? And it's something that has a lot of control over a lot of people. To truly, and the love of money is the root of all evil. Okay, so when you stop loving money, that's that you're wanting to gather it to yourself, right? Instead, you give it, and you give it freely. When you start giving, what you realize is you always have an abundance to give. That means wherever you're at in your situation, there's always more to give. You have more than what you need. So your needs are met, and out of the abundance of what you have, you give to others. And when you're working in the wisdom of God and the ways of God, you have an abundance for every good work. So whatever God asks you to do, you have all that you need, and you have an abundance to give to everyone else. So you see that with money. If you have lived by that spiritual law, you have seen that. Now, the deeper and more powerful, or much more beautiful truth is that when you receive the Spirit of God, he's infinite. You have a cup a vessel holding his spirit that overflows. And out of that overflow, it creates this fountain of life. It creates living waters that flow into other people's lives. You become a vessel in which gives the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God flows through you. It flows through your actions, through your words, through the love that you show. It flows through your personality, because it's God. When God recreates you as his creation, there's nothing hindering his flow. So it's coming from him, filling in you and overflowing to others. And so you give to others out of your abundance the Spirit of God, because that is the portion, that is your inheritance, is God, is his Spirit. And this is why it is so blessed to be of the first resurrection, because that means you're the firstborn, where you receive the inheritance, you receive a double portion, and you constantly have a double portion. The more that you give, the more that you have. You're always being filled. And Christ understood this truth. So though he knew he was one man in the flesh, he held the fullness of God. He held his Spirit that was infinite. And he knew that when he came into death, and so in the death realm, he became as we were. He entered into the death state where we were all abiding. And in that, he was able to give us his Spirit, and he knew he could give us his Spirit to each person, because that's how much of an abundance that his Spirit had, because it's of an infinite Spirit, which is of God. So he could give to everyone that Spirit, and it just keeps pouring out. But it flows, and there's a structure that you see with God, just like you see in creation when you have families with the firstborn, and that was their inheritance, and that's why things were established that way. It is a lesson to teach us that that's what God does. There are those that come to him first and are first awakened to his Spirit and to being united with his Spirit, okay? And that is a long process of becoming what was a dead, cursed fig tree to becoming alive, because now you're becoming a fig tree that was healed, and in essence you're becoming partaking of the tree of life. But this is the part about the sons of God, and this is why they're the sons of God, because as God, they are familiar and they know good and evil, because they have partaking of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We all have. Okay, that's in our memories, that's in our past, that's in part of our makeup and our recreation. That is what taught us about death and sin and mercy and forgiveness and God's righteousness and his holiness and his sovereignty, is because we went through that death experience, because we did eat of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. But he heals that. And he heals it when we lay down everything that was basically the fruit of it, our mind, our heart, our corrupted personality, that spirit that was governing it all. When all of that dies and we let go of all of it, and it's important to let go of all of it, because then you're open to receive something new, right? God is love, and love needs to be desired, because that's a nature of God. It's voluntary. Love loves. Love desires. So for us, we are to desire and to want his Spirit. So in all those ways that we were corrupted, he fills in and he renews us. So he gives us his mind and his heart and his Spirit and his garments. Our personality reflects him. And in that, we become a part of the tree of life. So that is why you're a son of God. For those who go through that process, who retain all that information and all that understanding, is because they do understand good and evil. But without the Spirit of God and being totally renewed, that understanding destroys you. It's a curse. But once everything is renewed, your mind, your spirit, your heart, your personality, when you take a part of everlasting life and you're renewed, you're healed. So you carry that newness of life into eternity. So you're being a part of the branch of Christ. He is the branch. We are the vines. We're a part of Him now. And it's that life that's flowing through us. And that's why everything is renewed. So when these sons of God, so the tree that was healed became part of the tree of life, when they start to be healed, that tree that was cursed, that was withered, that was dry at the roots, and when it starts to put out its leaves, you know that summer is near. Because when they start to put out their fruit, that fruit is going to be that Spirit of God. It's going to be His power. It's going to be all that He's doing in this earth. And because of all that we're learning, the revelations that we're experiencing, the different things that are happening within this earth and among those that are truly deeply seeking after God, I feel like this time is very close. That we're going to start seeing this parable of the fig tree. We're going to start seeing those who are the sons of God being revealed. And we know that creation yearns for the sons of God to be revealed. And the reason why is because they are going to be pouring out the Spirit of God into creation. They're going to be giving of their inheritance because they have learned it's more blessed to give than receive. So it is a tremendous blessing to receive the Spirit of God. But when you have His heart, it is your deepest desire for everyone to be healed, for all creation to be healed. And that is the heart that God desires for you to have, because that is His will. And when you are in line with His will, that is what your prayers contain, are those prayers for healing for all. You desire that the work, the path that the sons of God have taken to come to that resurrection. And remember, it's all that work within, but it is Christ doing that, is heeding that voice. It is being transformed and renewed in all those different areas of your life, your mind, your spirit, your heart, your personality. And you just want to pour, and you want everyone to have that. And even though you have the abundance, it is a great sadness if others are not healed. You want your inheritance because you know it's been given to you freely. Therefore, you want it to be given to everyone else, to all the children. You share joyfully. You give the Spirit joyfully. You want everyone to be healed, no matter what the wickedness or what the evil. Because I've mentioned this before, that no matter how evil someone has been in this earth, okay, we've all fallen short. We've all caused corruption and harm and destruction. We have been tearing each other apart. What a perfect redemption when those that cause that harm are now blessing and loving and good for eternity. There is no greater redemption than that. Not only for them, because everyone will awaken to the works that they have done. So it's not only such a gift to them, but is a gift to everyone. Because when someone really hurts you, what brings you healing is when they have learned and then they start to love you in all sincerity. So all the wicked that have been here, the way to heal that is for them to be healed, which is us. We're the wicked, every single one of us. And that should be our most desperate desire, is that we want to be healed so we can love perfectly, so that where we have harmed, where we have hurt, we now love. This is the blessing of the firstborn, is that they are going to be the ones that are being pouring out that beautiful Spirit of God into this earth. It says His Spirit is poured out on all flesh. And these are the ones that it comes through.